health, it talks to a state of being physically, socially, and psychologically well, not only the absence of a disease. But if you look at our situation here in Zimbabwe and also globally, we tend to focus on the physical aspect and neglecting the social and psychological well-being of individuals. If you have got a headache right now, you go straight to a practitioner or you look for paracetamol to cure the headache. But if you have got social, psychological problems, no one will seek a psychologist or a mental health specialist to cure that anxiety, to cure that depression. This has caused us to be where we are today because we have neglected the psychological and social component of health, and we have focused more on the physical component of health, neglecting the social and psychological. These three domains, they are all equally important. None is more important than the other, so they have to be treated the same. So issues of drug and substance abuse, they are just a mirror of the actual psychological problems. You have to go and dig deeper. What is the actual problems? If someone turns to drug and substance abuse, it's just a coping mechanism to the actual psychological problem, which might be depression, which might be stress, which might be anxiety. If we look at the classifications of mental health conditions, there are basically 4 classifications of mental health conditions. The first one is psychosis, which is a major psychiatric condition. This one, the symptoms are visible. People can walk naked. People can be violent. This is what we call mental illness. Then there is also anxiety conditions. People can just be anxious for no apparent reason. That affects their social and also occupational function. Then there are also what we call personality disorders. There are personalities like narcissistic personalities, people who view themselves as more important than the other. All these are mental health conditions that needs to be addressed. There is also the last one, mood disorders, where depression falls, where depression, suicide, and also stress falls. They are also mental health conditions. But we tend to, when we talk of mental illnesses, we focus on the first one, psychosis, which is more visible. It is also important also to differentiate between mental illness and mental health. When we talk about mental health, we are talking on the health of a mind, your health psychologically, your health socially. We are not talking about mental illness. That's where the stigmatization comes. When we want to talk about mental health, someone might think that we are talking about the first classification that I've indicated, psychosis. But mental health simply means your health of the mind. It doesn't mean mental illness. So the first stigmatization in terms of mental health is the terminology that we use. If we say mental illness, mental health. Right now, if I start to talk about mental health, someone might think that we are talking about mental illness. Illness is the opposite of mental health. We need all to be mentally healthy in order to function in society and also at the workplace.
I think I've always been aware. It's not necessarily the aftermath of what happened. Even in the process of doing that, I understood that this changes their lives completely. What I've come to realize is, in the process, there is a certain selfishness which then stops caring about what other people are going to feel or experience from the result of your actions, of the actions that you take. So I've always known. I mean, men struggle with mental health also because they can't talk about it openly. It's a whole thing. They get mocked or they feel judged or something, or also because our culture says murume omkomana hachene. 2020, funny enough or strange enough, I don't know what to call it, for lack of a better word, a cousin of mine, like my aunt's son, committed suicide, a male, when he had issues with his wife. He went and hung himself. So it led me to write a book called Letters to My Younger Self, dedicated to my son and my nephews and nieces and other young people. These books and the topic inside, even also talking about coming clean just to make it, they've come from a place of personal experience and understanding the impact certain actions has on the people we love, directly connected to us, or other people, the general society as a whole. So when it comes back to that, I then realize that we struggle so much because the demons that we fight are not the demons which are out there. It's the ones which are within us that we have to befriend and be able to get to a place of being able to control them. If I don't control depression, anxiety, mental unwellness, it pushes me to a corner that I opt to taking a rope and hanging myself. I am able to sit here because by God's grace, my friends were able to show up on time and be able to save me. Had they arrived 30 minutes later, it would be a completely different story. Other people are not as fortunate. Other people haven't had somebody come through. They didn't maybe even think of calling another person. I don't even know why I called my friends. But is there just a maybe that God did it that way so that I will get to a place where my life can be spared? Is it possible? Kuti, all those things were also leading to the whole issue. Yakuti, I need to be here to be able to talk about it from that place of saying, I've seen it happening, I've gone through it, and this is what's going on. And then the other thing, when I'm looking at the boy child, the impact that mental health issues have, I think it's not only on me, it also has got to stand looking at the whole society. What are we looking at as a society? Extending to build towards our communities, in the families, in this general community, Yatiri, extending to the national level where we are talking about these issues, creating spaces, safe spaces for men, safe spaces for the boy child to be able to come in and say, this is what's happening. Because if your mother has killed herself, she has committed suicide, how much impact or how much is that going to hang on top of you for the rest of your life? Sometimes then emanates with then who you are identified to be. The boy whose mother killed herself. The boy who had a mother commit suicide or something, a certain label comes with it. And for my brothers, you know, her sister did this. They will be, sister, the stigma that comes with it. The reason why people don't come out and talk about those things is because of the judgment that comes with it. First and foremost, I've mentioned that I've written a book to protect the kids, the younger generation. It's not only against suicide. The book is called Letters to My Younger Self. It addresses issues across the spectrum of things that young people battle with or the challenges that they face. It's got to do with financial issues, how money influences you to either be the good guy or be the bad guy. Issues to do with self-awareness, issues to do with identity, self-worth. Really, there's a whole lot of I think it's about 33 letters in different topics of life concerning issues that I want to talk to them about. So that's one thing that I've done. It's not only going to live into their generation, it's going to live beyond that. And it's not only going to be me towards the two of them or the three of them. It's targeting a wider range of young people whom I identify as young sisters, young brothers, cousins, and whatsoever, so that they grab something to hold on to. There's also issues of encouraging them to know that I'm there. I talk to my son and I tell him, you know, you can come to me and tell me something's wrong. So if he's not happy, regardless of how petty it might seem to another person, I want him to know that I'm in safe space, that I'm not going to lash out and be like, that he has to protect me from feeling pain. I wouldn't want him taking decisions because he's afraid it's going to break my heart. But I would want him to come and talk to me about it, heartbroken or not. We'll address the issue and we come to a place of saying, okay, this is how we're going to handle it. So those are the places that I've started with. And to extend it beyond my own family and my kids, extending it to other people. I've worked with women addressing those issues. I've seen women kill themselves in marriage. I've seen women kill themselves because of work. Somebody is doing something which is not understood by a whole lot of people, but coming to a place of wanting to understand. Create safe spaces. And I cannot emphasize enough, especially for men. Men are killing themselves. Men are running to drugs because they can't talk about issues. There's mental issues, mental health challenges that they're facing on the daily. But who to talk to or where to go? We don't have safe spaces for that. So the same effort that has been put to addressing issues or challenges to do with women, can we, I don't know whoever is able to or has the resources, can we come and gather the same resources to be able to avail resources for men to be able to address those issues? The book is not even for profit. It's for addressing mental health issues within men and women, to encourage people to come clean with themselves. Because when you are honest with yourself, you are able to come as a full person wholly and address certain other issues and heal yourself from the root going up. Because when we are having issues, you can just burst up and people don't understand what's going on. Kanti you're battling something quietly and silently. But when you've come to a place of where, hey, I'm not okay, I need help, let me go for therapy. I'm not okay, maybe let me talk to a friend. I'm not okay, let me try what can make me get to a place of getting better and healing. So those are the things. And I pray that the stigma associated with mental health issues, people who tried to commit suicide, or people living with HIV, people born with it, or people who have contracted a certain disease, that the shame eventually will get to a place of extinction. That we get to accept that these are real life issues which happen. No one ever wakes up and says, today will be a good day to commit suicide. It's the triggers to a point where a person cannot hold on any longer and they decide, no, it's better if I take myself out. People do the most bizarre things that we might not be able to understand. But I don't think we should be judging them. If anything, we should be bringing ourselves to a place of trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing and why it's happening like this. So, yeah, I think the stigma, the shame, the judgment, the fear and all those things. Because also, mind you, in this book, I talk about personal things which, you know, can come across as dirty laundry to be aired, which then someone can look at me in some type of way. Do I really mind or care much how people view me? On the contrary. For me, it's for me to show up, show you respect. If you can pick something away from my life or pick up something from what I'm saying, great benefit. What you think about me or what you come to conclude about me really is none of my business. So in those things, when I'm looking at it with the shame that is associated with, I'll carry it for the rest of my life, that I am that girl who tried to commit suicide. My son, maybe in his 20s, when he's understanding even as a teenager, will come to a place of knowing that this is what happened. So when he's looking back in hindsight, what's then going to be happening? I might not be carrying the shame personally, but my family has to bear it. It's my mom, it's my son, it's my nephew, it's my cousin sister, it's my brothers, it's people associated with me. How does it affect them mentally, physically, emotionally? I mean, like I said earlier on, I said I've lost a lot of people because of this whole thing. But in the end, it is what it is.
Yeah, she talked of a very interesting narrative, boys not crying. I think we need to hammer on that one. We need to change the cultural perspectives. Boys, as much as girls, they go through psychological problems. The advantage with women is that they talk over their problems. Wherever women gather, they are talking about their problems. But the challenge with men and boys, they think over their problems. They don't openly talk about their problems. And with these narratives that boys do not cry. The advantages of crying. When a woman cries, yells at a funeral, they are ventilating their feelings. And there is this hormone that is released, the serotonin, the feel-good hormone. And thereafter, they are okay. Unlike boys, who have been cultured that we do not cry. The challenge with the mental health conditions is that the wound is not visible as compared to the physical wound. You can visibly see a physical wound, but in terms of the emotional pain, in terms of the emotional wound, it's not visible. So one might conclude that men are stronger than women. That is why the majority of men are successful in killing themselves as compared to women. So let us change the narratives to say that let our boys cry and live. Yeah, the first thing, like what we are doing right now, we have someone who has lived through the experiences. If many people like here come out and talk about their lived experiences, it might also break the stigma that is associated with the mental illnesses. And also, one thing that can also be done in order to address this issue of stigmatization is to integrate physical health and also psychological health. Wherever there are facilities for physical health, there is need to have psychological health facilities. For example, at local hospitals, at a clinic, if we have got a nurse who is attending to people with physical complaints, we also need to have someone with a background of mental health to also be attending people, so that when someone visits a clinic or a hospital, it's a multidisciplinary approach. One might have headaches that are not associated with the physical problems. The headache might be psychological in nature, what they call psychosomatic conditions. You might develop severe headaches, severe backaches. That has nothing to do with physical problems. That the problem might be manifesting from a psychological point of view. So in order to break the barrier, we need to integrate physical health and psychological health. Wherever there are facilities for physical health, we need to find facilities for mental health. And also the issue of psychoeducation, we need to talk about these things. We need to break the barrier, like saying that issues of mental illness are taboo, issues of suicide are taboo. Let's have discussions in churches, let's have discussions in schools. Let's openly talk about these things. It might also assist in destigmatizing the conditions.